IVM.
Hey, so what do you think Jishnu, Dinkar and I have in common? Well, it's all that we are solid underachievers. But if you like the opposite, which is that of a superachiever, then you should definitely check out The Vishal Gondal Show, where Vishal, the host who I just named, and is also in the title of the show, The Vishal Gondal Show. So, if you're an achiever and would like to become a superachiever, then you should probably check out The Vishal Gondal Show. You can catch all these episodes and more on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of the Geek Food Podcast. My name is Tejas. This week, I have Jishnu with me. Hi.
Hello.
Jishnu, it's a special episode. Is this a back to the franchise episode, technically speaking, kind of?
If it's a franchise, we're back at it. So,
okay.
Sure.
Well, we're reviewing a movie that is not quite old.
It's one of the most disparate franchises in that regard because it's pretty randomly.
Yes.
I think it's. I'll dig into this in greater detail later, but it's it's very much how do I put it? Profit-driven kind of a. Hey, this worked, so I need to make the most of this now, kind of a thing.
Oh, I see.
You know what I'm getting at? I'll expound on this later.
How sure are we of that theory, though?
Not terribly, but that's what I felt like
but that's
while watching it.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool, fair enough. I want to believe otherwise because I'm quite a fan of this franchise.
Yeah.
Even more so now in some regards than before. Actually, I don't know. We'll discuss that. But.
Yeah.
We're talking about, wow, this is shrouded in mystery,
Right.
just like the filmmaker himself, M. Night Shyamalan.
Ding dong.
Shyamalan Ding Dong. His film Unbreakable was the first in this series. Second was Split, and which was in 2016. So there was 16 years between the first and, so to speak, the second movie. I'm not going to call it a sequel. It feels like a spin-off, which then branched into a common sequel for both of them. And this year we got the conclusion to both of those films, which is Glass. So 2000.
It's a 19-year long thing.
19-year long thing.
But between 1 and 2, there were,
16 years.
He did 16 years and several other completely unrelated films.
Though I feel like we are getting used to this more and more as more and more spin-offs and sequels to much older franchises come about. I think Tron was like 33 years apart. Star Wars is notorious for doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think we're kind of used to it. Having said that, and I think there are going to be more and more of these.
These giant gaps between...
For example, between the end of one, or at least what we consider to be the end of a franchise, and then a reboot or restart or whatever it is, a continuation. I think most recently something that I was very surprised and very pleasantly surprised to see is that Patrick Stewart is back as Jean-Luc Picard in The Next Generation. I don't know what's going to be called, but man, that's cool. Like, it was a while
amazing.
since I think the last movie, Generations, was the last one where both Captain Kirk and Jean-Luc Picard meet each other, and William Shatner was really old by then. And
Still is pretty old.
Yeah, still currently.
He was
currently
quite
even
old.
older. Some would find.
Oh, okay. Stop the presses.
Okay, cool.
Completely unrelated.
Yeah.
As we do. I haven't heard the latest Brolin episode that you guys did just yet.
Yeah.
You alluded to what I talked
You
about.
haven't heard it?
I haven't heard it yet.
Oh.
Did you expound on it? Because I had some revelations.
I did.
Just last night about that.
Who told you this? Because Dinkar and I were talking about it. Krish Makija?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Our boy. Yeah.
Our boy Krish Makija. Yeah. So
you did
on the
confirm,
episode,
right?
we did
I'm
confirm
not dreaming.
the fact that
my mind was
potentially,
blown. My mind was blown.
It
I was
was
right. No, it was. It freaking was.
I mean,
it had to be.
Okay,
it had to
the
be.
coincidence is very high, and the probability that you saw him is
to be.
I'd say it's up to about.
It's like 80%.
How much I got on the
more.
boards? Yeah, I'd say 80%.
What? You got 80%. Well done.
In the 10th boards, I got
nice.
83% just now.
wow.
Yeah, and then it was a steep downhill
after that.
from there.
How'd you do in your prelims?
I got like 60 something. So to about 20%.
Upgrade.
Yeah.
You know the thing.
Well, technically not, but anyway, yeah.
You know the weird thing is I did IB, and the thing about that, the International Baccalaureate.
You have letters.
We have. Well, no. We have numbers out of 7, which is just bizarre. And out of 7 and 45.
What are these Horcruxes?
I know exactly. It's like 7 when you're like not the boards, and then the boards are 45. But the weird thing is, by the time like how you have prelims and the real thing, we have predicted grades, which is even better.
What is this?
Because it's literally you go up to your professors and just like, hey, remember how many apples I've given you and been like your teacher's pet the whole time? Please like bump up my predicted grade. And that's what you send to colleges to get admitted for. And then you can just botch the actual thing. And
No,
that's exactly
I'm
what
sure
happened.
you have to still submit your final scores.
You have to submit it, but you've already been accepted. And then
if you like totally screwed up after that, there's like, it's too much paperwork to send it back.
So that's exactly what happens. But look,
cool. All right.
Yeah, dude, the guy was there. He had to have been.
So
he had to have been.
I want to agree. For your sake, Jishnu, and for all of us, I agree with you. I really do believe it.
Just put it on the record. Just reiterate what we're talking about, because we haven't actually explained what the hell we're talking about.
So in a previous episode, we've spoken about how Jishnu saw Christopher Nolan near a raiment store.
Yeah, in South Bombay while listening.
At Camp's Corner?
While listening to the first of the 3 Brolin episodes that we had.
Right.
I was 5 minutes into Brolin Part 1. I look out the car window and I see a beautifully parted widow's peak with blindingly blonde hair, and I go, holy crap.
Were you really serious when you saw that?
I was totally serious, man.
Okay.
He was wearing a freaking Ace suit standing in front of Raymond's suit store, so that makes complete sense. And blonde hair, giant widow's peak, big ass forehead. I was like, there's only one man.
Interesting.
And you guys were talking about him.
Yeah.
And I flipped my shit. And then I just got confirmation that it sounds like he was location scouting.
He is location scouting.
So, there you go.
Okay, good. No, I'm with you, dog. I'm with you, man.
My mind can't be more blown right now. Because it was such a fucking rainbow and leprechaun moment.
Yeah, it's a double rainbow, man.
Yes. Come on, put that on my epitaph, man.
Because the episode you were listening to also.
Here lies Shnu. He saw Nolan once.
While listening to an episode.
Listening about him.
We have some email, which I'd love to go through. Right. Just know I'm happy that this serendipitous moment,
Can you please turn off your phone light? It is blinding me in the face right now.
How? Oh, whoops.
How big by turning
it off? All
right,
cool. The torch you meant. Okay, cool. All right, so we got an amazing email. I don't know if you... Okay, so last week... a couple of weeks ago, Dinkar and I did a review on Mard Ko Dard Nahi Hota, which was wildly... we had very different views on it. I mean, I didn't think it was an exceptional movie. Dinkar absolutely hated it, but actually he didn't really hate it.
I mean, he's a hater. We know this. Yeah.
It was a rare one.
If there's one thing he is.
It was a rare one. Anyway, so we got an email from Mohan Singh. Mohan Singh says, hey team, we've never heard from a Mohan Singh before. We have regulars who kind of mail in. But the first mail that has come in weeks, inspired by Dinkar. Hey team, I listened to your latest episode on Mard Ko Dard Nahi Hota. I'm a recent fan of your show and ponder on many of your opinions and necessary observations. But it seemed 90% of your arguments on this movie were unnecessary, snobbish, and pretentious to me, in capitals. Okay, so at least he admits that...
You tell him, Mohan.
Okay, so he says that if to him, he found it quite pretentious and snobbish. I'll throw in a word, obnoxious. I'm never motivated to write to anyone or to comment anything, even when I don't agree with them. But Dinkar's opinions made me cringe.
This is amazing.
Said this. Has Dinkar...
We have given Mohan a purpose.
Dude.
We have given him drive.
Check this out. Dinkar,
or you guys have drive.
I don't think Dinkar's never made anything save a few, people cringe. But Mohan Singh has cringed.
Dinkar has created more enemies than Sauron.
It's so weird for this very faux, likable, personality that Dinkar has. He seems to have quite a few enemies.
He's a two-faced rat bastard. Let me put it to you that way, man.
He's a total d-bag.
How many? It's been about 8 months since I moved house. Right around the corner from Bono Ice Cream. I just want to have ice cream with somebody who claims to be my best friend.
Yeah, and loves you too, like you do.
And how much ice cream have I had? Precisely 0. Why? Because I'm waiting for him to come over and have ice cream with me.
I have an opportunity for both of you.
It's been 8 months.
I have an opportunity for both of you.
What a hoe.
What I hear is that this band that you both claim to love is coming to India this year.
What? What?
All I'm saying...
What is that?
I'm giving you both an opportunity here to
What?
prove your friendship.
What does that even mean?
I think,
What?
and I hear
You're saying words that make no sense
you
to
too,
me.
the band, is coming to India this year.
Why?
I don't know. This is what
where
I
are
hear.
you getting your source? What?
I will say no more, Jishnu.
Okay, we have a bulletin.
will
We
say-
have a bulletin to record in 10 minutes, so we'll get there.
We'll get
We'll
there.
get there. Okay.
All right. We have one more email before we get into it. All right. This is from Sandeep Chakrabarti, who spent many years in Japan. Double digits,
Sandy
in
C.
fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know how we do.
yeah. So basically, his email is called @DNT. I'm back. After his long wound email about how Jishnu and Janam are more important than we realize on this show,
Oh, shucks.
you guys are the Mind Stone. This is all I'm going to say. It's like more important than you realize. Hey, one second. Can I ask you a
What?
question? What does the Mind Stone do? What can the Mind Stone do?
It convinces you to do what the dude with the stone wants you to do.
What?
It's what he used in Avengers 1. That's what powered Loki's scepter.
He's a smart man. What I feel about DNT? Well, let me talk about myself first. Have you met a guy who loves a girl so much that he can hardly utter a word when it comes to complimenting her and rather makes up a joke?
Yes.
Well, that's me. That's what he says.
Okay.
Okay. So DNT, you guys suck. Please keep sucking. Oh God! All right.
I see what he did there. It took me a
On
second.
your face, Arnab Goswami. If someone fixes Arnab's show and makes it good, it will feel like a Geek Fruit show with DNT. Imagine you are on Arnab's show and bullet points. In spite of being chaotic, you are able to actually understand things. Rather than getting a sickening feeling, you are able to feel refreshed. Rather than despising the human race, you are able to look forward to your next day. So basically nothing like Arnab Goswami's show, but a show nonetheless, like his. Living dream. When mom says live your dream and you end up being an engineer, banker or doctor, you wonder what it'll feel like if, quotes, I can do something I am passionate about and I love. They can listen to your show and get the sense of that from your voice.
What?
Yeah, that's
No,
what he says.
Let's back up.
He says basically, when somebody says, when somebody asks you to go live your dream out and chase your passion.
Yeah, what is that actually gonna...
So listening to this show gives you the sense that we did something similar.
Oh, like that?
That we chased our dreams.
Oh.
And we ended up with a podcast.
Yeah. I mean...
No, it's fine.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Random blabber in italics, bold, and underlined.
Did he? Are you saying he wrote those words? Or are you describing his typography?
The formatting.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
There we go.
All right, Sudeep's real motive. First of all, I am not Sudeep, in brackets, duh. Second, I can't believe you guys missed his real motive. He just wants to be the best friend of Jishnu, and he's clearing out the roadblocks.
Let's take a second.
Okay.
Let's pause. Let's have you read it in your mind.
No,
And then
I'm scrolling through it, that's why. Sudeep, mate, it's just a joke, don't take it seriously.
Okay.
The lost word, empathy. So when you invite some guests and don't let them talk and don't let them finish their sentences, on second thought, to hell with empathy. It's your show. Do whatever you feel is right. If they want to talk, they can create their own shows. Janam literally did that. Is what he's written. That's brilliant.
Fair play.
And finally, thank you note. I heard the readout of my letter. What can I say? I'm flattered. It feels like my name is now saved in this cosmos.
So is this like a sequel?
Yeah,
I
it's
guess
saved again. Yeah. What next? We're overwriting his file. What next? I don't know if I can write anymore. I can't write a peanut-sized letter, and in this day and age, who has the time to read such long letters, clearly, as mentioned by Jishnu? Well, we found a way. But I can assure, I will keep listening. Thanks, ... Sandeep,
Oh, shucks.
what can I say? You're a man of your word. You completed the sequel to your first letter. I appreciate it. Thank you for all the kind words you have said about me, Dinkar, Jishnu, Janam. We really appreciate it. We really love. I think this is just this is how we roll, right? Mm-hmm. We either have people who just don't give any f***s about this show, or we have really, really hardcore fans. And I am proud to say that you are one of them. Thank you, Sandeep.
What he said.
Arigato. And that's right. That's right.
Yep.
Yep.
That's a word.
It means thank you, right? I'm gonna say yes.
Let's go with that. So
we're taking a break, right?
Or that. Yeah, fine.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you are not following us on social media, please make sure that you do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So we have something really exciting in store for Star Wars fans. After a successful first edition of the Geek Fruit Cantina, we're back with another. Come celebrate Star Wars Day with us. That's May the 4th with Geek Fruit at the Cuckoo Cafe in Bandra. That's in Mumbai. We have a super fun evening planned with a live podcast featuring special guests, Star Wars merchandise up for grabs, Dinkers games, along with Star Wars themed food and cocktails. You don't want to miss this. This week on The Seen and the Unseen, Amit Verma's guest is economist and researcher Ajay Shah. The two of them talk about zombie firms and banks artificially kept alive by taxpayers. They also take a look at the recent collapse of Jet Airways. On the second episode of the Ronnie Screwvala podcast, Dreaming with Your Eyes Open, Ronnie Screwvala talks to me about the importance of failure, how age shouldn't be a deterrent for entrepreneurship, and setting the right expectations for your venture. On IVM Likes, Janam, Avineet and Madhuri discuss the gut-wrenching Netflix original series Delhi Crime. On Shunya One, Sheila Ditya and I are joined by Gaurav Jalan, founder and CEO of M-Pocket. We talk about the current tech scenario in Kolkata and also get into the technicalities of M-Pocket. On Advertising is Dead, Varun talks to Advait Gupta, co-founder and CEO of Supari Studios, about branded and purpose-driven content. On the Filter Coffee podcast, Karthik is joined by Siddharth Deshmukh, who shares his experience at MICA, both as a student and as a media professor. He talks about liberal education. In Echoes of India, Anirudh explains how brilliant political and religious innovations in 5th century India led to a spurt of temple building. On Croc Tales last week, Anand Sivakumara reveals the last part of his Tales Psycho girlfriend and begins another multi-part story on Anita's toothache. And with that, let's move on with your shows.
Hey everybody, welcome back. We're done with all the blabber, with all the randomness. It's time to talk about a franchise that I truly love. Something that cannot be said for all of M. Night Shyamalan's movies. But Jishnu, tell me, what was the introduction to M. Night?
M. Night in general?
Yeah, which was the first movie you saw?
Signs.
Oh, nice.
And I was a bebe.
Okay.
Saw it at Regal Cinema in Colaba.
Lovely.
Circa 90, whatever the hell year it came out. 95?
I saw it,
something like that? Mid-90s.
No. Well after.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, sometime.
I want to say 2001, 2000.
No.
Come on.
No chance.
Well, we have a producer for some reason.
Yeah. Hey, producer. Let's see that reason.
2002.
Really?
Yeah.
It was after Unbreakable.
It is after Unbreakable.
Oh, damn.
I love Science, so I'm a huge fan.
I did really like Science,
yeah.
but I haven't seen it since then. And like I said, so if it came out in 2002, I would have been like 12, 13.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scared the pants off me, which is kind of what it's meant to do.
Yeah.
So that was cool. I really should rewatch that.
It is a good movie.
But yeah, I haven't seen many. So I have not seen Sixth Sense because I've never felt the need to, because of obvious reasons. But I'll eventually get there. Like when I'll need to do a binge of the man one day.
Yeah.
That being said, so basically the point is I haven't seen very much of him. He has sort of been shelved, I think, just in general in the world, myself included, as this kind of a joke to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, post a certain film, I want to say Lady in the Water, and then, came his much maligned kind of stuff. I mean,
The Happening.
The Happening, After Earth with Will Smith and Jaden Smith.
Right, that was him. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a very distinct kind of laughter which I associate with Shyamalan, which is you're in the theater, you're watching trailers, you're like, oh, what's this? This looks cool, and then boom,
disappointment.
You see his name, and it's like, oh right, okay, that's.
Okay.
There's a sense of cringe associated with the name. That being said,
yes,
that will not be the case with my review of this franchise.
Great.
Because
I
was turned around.
Yes, I think
for the most part.
My impression of Manoj, I love him. I think he's a very serious filmmaker.
Yeah.
I think he has a definitive stamp on his films. Like he has a director's trademarks. He's got very unique trademark kind of visual cues. He has a way of writing dialogue that I can recognize that after watching his entire body of work. Not all of it is great. He's had a string of flops. Like I said, post I want to say Lady in the Water and everything like that. But I still think the man is a very competent filmmaker.
Very much so.
I like what he has to say in his films, thematically. I love that he sticks to Philadelphia in most of his films. This is a man who's thinking about what he's making. It's not just arbitrary. It's some of the complaints that we've gotten about films especially in the Marvel universe, and we talk about that a lot, but people who have a distinctive trademark, like a Taika Waititi, maybe we don't enjoy it as much, but or like a James Gunn, who obviously we both love, but the complaints that we've got for other ones who are, I don't want to say the Russos, but, people who have inherited franchises and then kind of not molded it into their own vision, but made it a more streamlined Marvel universe instead of going even wackier or even more director's trademark.
I see what you mean.
Do you know what I mean?
I think I see what you mean.
Yeah,
you're saying that the MCU has movies where it's clearly the director's movie, and there are some movies like the Russos which are very cohesive to the overall.
Exactly. And which is kind of what you need for Avengers. And it's a tough job, but you can tell the difference between Whedon's films and like, there's like, so similarly, like what I love about M. Night is that even though, maybe he doesn't
distinct
have
is all
very distinct, very like an auteur, you know, the music in his films are awesome. The characters are really cool. So I like all of that. And obviously, I mean, he kind of, not invented, but he kind of brought back the whole thing about, you know, Thriller, like the twist, you know, M. Night's twist, so what's the twist going to be and all that jazz, which kind of screwed him over in many ways.
And I think that comes from both those points you mentioned. The fact that he has a very distinct stamp and that he is known as the Twister.
Manoj the Twister.
Yeah, that's what he is, right? I think that's because he, like you said, you know, he usually bases his movies if it's not in Philadelphia, it's around that area. He likes to keep his stories relatively humble in terms of scale.
Yes,
he doesn't get carried away with, you know, spending money, and he's known as I
guess he's like an indie guy almost.
That's the thing. He functions like an indie guy, and for better or for worse, most short films, independent short films, are built on the crux of the twist.
The story,
not the story as much as the twist, because like this kind of harkens back, favorite word, harkens back to an episode we did a little bit ago. Me and Dinkar talked about what's it called? Love, Sex and Robots.
Yeah.
Love, Sex and Robots. Love, Death and Robots. Whatever.
Love, Sex and Dhoka is the other one.
Love, Drugs and Sex.
Love, Sex
Jake Gyllenhaal movie.
and Dhoka, and Love, Death and Robots.
Dhokla and Drugs. So whatever that series was, the Netflix one with a bunch of cartoons and robots and stuff. We described that series as a bunch of Vimeo shorts.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
and a lot of those shorts in that series were just, you know, hurry up and get to the twist. Because especially the small ones, the really small ones, it's 5-minute or 6-minute.
So I've not seen all of them, but do all of them kind of lead up to this, like, here's the turnaround?
The majority of them, because that's what you need when your story is only that short. It's not long enough to like dig into a character and empathize with them beyond a certain point. So the button at the end has to be like, we fooled you, gotcha. And that's unfortunately what Manoj has been, you know, like he's been fit into that little box, you know, and he can't get out of that box, unfortunately. And so here's the thing. So now let's get up to speed with the trilogy.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
What I loved about Unbreakable, far and away my favorite between the three, is the fact that it was an innocent and very, how do I put it?
It's a very insular kind of film.
Insular film, very, very timely for the type of subject matter.
Actually, I think it's ahead of its time, you know, in many ways.
That's what I mean. It was at a time in which nobody was really thinking too hard about the genre. Nobody was thinking very much about that subject matter.
X-Men was the only film that came out.
Yeah, and that, like, if it's just a movie or two movies into a successful beginnings of this genre, you know, his introduction to it, or his take on it, was not something that would be like seen with a giant magnifying glass, no pun intended, like how Glass is.
Yeah.
Right? So the problem that he faces now, which is why I said at the beginning of the episode, you know, the money behind this, or like the momentum that's been developed.
Right.
Look at the fact that at the time, Bruce Willis was Action Man.
Yeah.
Right? He was the Action Man.
Yeah, and he was coming to the end of his action phase.
And so he tried things like guesting on Friends. And making a big impact as a comedic actor and just trying to do like different shit like that.
The Kid. I love that movie. Walt Disney's The Kid. Great film.
Sam Jackson as well at the time. Nobody considered him as, you know, the brains behind the biggest superhero franchise of all time. That was not even a concept at all, right? He was equally...
The man has made so much nerd money.
He was equally, you know, an actor's actor, hammy as all hell, but he was not a comic booky guy, because that was not
fiction guy.
That was not a word. He was an auteur's actor because he was a character actor, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's true.
Bruce Willis was the Action Man. So he took Action Man and he took character actor and said, okay, I'm going to make character actor a hell of a character, which is what Mr. Glass is. Elijah is a perfect caricature from a comic book.
Amazing,
And David Dunn is your everyman who, unlike, say, a Spider-Man who begins as an everyman, becomes the pinnacle of comic book characters. Peter Parker starts off as the most innocent. Anybody could be Peter Parker, but then Spider-Man is, you know, evolved into the highest level of comic booky you can get. David Dunn never does that. And so even though you would expect Bruce Willis to come out guns blazing and rip his shirt off and go, yeah, motherfuckers, blah, that doesn't happen, which is what makes it endearing, right?
It's amazing.
And so if you look at Unbreakable as it is, it's great. But then what I found heavy-handed was the fact that Split, if that was its own movie without that Nick Fury ending, it would have been a solid, similar attempt to let James McAvoy act his ass off.
Yeah.
It wasn't really scary. I think the touting it as a horror film was kind of
it's not a
misnomer.
horror. It's more of a thriller, suspense kind of thing.
Absolutely, and he does suspense and thrills very well. He's amazing, right? So Split was great, but then the minute you say, all right, now these two completely separate movies are related, the whole point of getting to the ending revelation. We're going to spoil these movies, by the way, right?
Oh yeah,
Clearly,
we should. We ought to.
Hey, there we go.
I've been trying to talk about these films for so long.
We're 26 minutes in. We didn't mess up yet. So we're good.
Spoiler.
Okay, so Unbreakable is great. Split is great. And then at the end of Split, you have 5 seconds where you say these two 16-year apart films that have nothing to do with each other at all narratively are in fact connected. And then at the end of Glass, we're like, all right, why are these connected? Other than you have 3 amazing actors and you can afford them in the same movie finally.
Yeah.
Why is this connected? Because he sat next to the other guy on the train, or his dad sat next to the other guy on the train, which is, I'm not expecting the biggest revelation. I'm not expecting the biggest,
I think it's less to do about that, though.
It is less to do about that.
They wanted to kind of find a connection between the characters.
But, so, I mean, it's not the hardest thing if you say it's pure coincidence that, we asserted the dad, who we never met before, have no connection to, no empathy towards, happens to be related, and therefore that's the reason he's crying.
Yeah.
It felt to me that he was capable of more, and I felt 100%. Like Glass,
I think Glass
was really fun.
It's good, it's not great.
But then it kind of it ramps up really quickly once we're in the heist moments of Sam Jackson's finally speaking parts.
Yeah.
And we see the escape plot and all that stuff. That was really cool. And then the minute we have the final act, now that I think about it, he literally had an MCU third act problem. The movie starts off all right. It builds up really well once we're in the thick of it, and we sort of see, okay, we know where everybody's at. We have the blueprint in our heads of who's where and what's happening and what each person's agenda is.
Right.
And then you got the beautiful heist sequence.
Yeah.
Which is always fun. For lack of better, storytelling, if you just say, here's a game of cat and mouse, watch the game. That's always, it's like a sport. It's just like watching.
No, it's good.
It's just watching two guys, do what they do.
Yeah.
Without any thought and energy put into the greater story. In that moment, you're just thinking about how is this guy getting out of this room.
Correct.
That's always going to be fun.
No,
right?
I agree.
And then at the end of the movie, you gotta defend why have I spent all my time investing in all this. And the biggest issue, I guess, is the fact that when you make these movies 16 years apart, which have no connection other than coinky-dink, when you get flashbacks to Unbreakable, you have to think, if it wasn't the case where we were doing this podcast and I knew we were going to review these movies and I saw them in relatively quick succession, when you flash back to Unbreakable, people in the audience are going to be like, why am I looking at a young Bruce Willis? Oh, because we're looking at the kid. I didn't even realize the kid was the same kid.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
It's a great detail if you give a f***. But the problem is when you make movies 16 years apart, you can't expect the audience to give a fuck.
I definitely feel like Glass is like a fan film. Like it's made wholeheartedly for fans. Like
it felt reactionary.
Are you sure? I mean, however you want to call it, I think there's a lot of love for Unbreakable, and I think, it's almost like that's the underdog of his films, like Sixth Sense obviously was, his big claim to fame. Then he did, Unbreakable, he did The Village, he did, all these films. I really think Unbreakable is like, you're right, it came out at a time when I don't think people kind of recognize that it was very prescient, like the fact that, it's talking about the comic book genre in a very meta way, but still in a very small way. In many ways, I think Unbreakable is one of my favorite, like, origin stories. It's a brilliant origin film.
So good. Very good.
And, it's just got amazing moments, when he's bench pressing. Like, I want to talk about Unbreakable for a bit. We've spoken about it very briefly on, when we were talking about scores. I think that's got one of my favorite themes, like musical themes, which I think James Newton Howard did. Man, it still makes me feel like they bring it back very, very briefly in this film, but amazing score. All the performances are great. Everything ties up perfectly, right? And without having to have a big battle. Of course you can't, because one is like a Brainiac type guy or a Lex Luthor kind of guy, and one's like an action hero kind of guy. Yeah. So you really don't need to have a third act kind of battle, which already makes it like far better than a lot of the movies that have come out like in the last 20 years.
Absolutely. So good.
So Unbreakable is awesome. I think Bruce Willis, man, who would have thought that he would have been able to give like far more nuanced performances? But I mean, like he was started off as an actor, and then he became an action guy, and then he became an actor again. Awesome film, love it. Just one of my favorite movies. Split, I think, was really good. I'm a big James McAvoy fan.
As am I.
Yeah, he's really good.
The thing,
and he's kind of, I've spoken about this on another podcast where, I mean, they've totally kind of destroyed the multiple personality disorder in the eyes of like people, as in like this is not really how it is. It's just a shtick for the movies, plot and everything like that. Having said that, he does an excellent job of bouncing between characters. That's fucking awesome.
So the thing with Split was that I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun because, again, in that similar indie space of like, here, I have this one space, I have a dungeon room that I can use. I have a couple of exterior shots which are not hard to get. That'll just set up the premise for why we're in this dungeon room. And then let a very, very good technical actor, like a proper fucking thespian, do what he does, and let him have fun with it and milk it, and then let me just get a couple of supporting actors to react to him.
I love Anya Taylor-Joy. She's so good.
The girls were great. The therapist was really cool. So Split was fun.
It's not my kind of movie just generally.
It isn't. But Split was fun because he just let the chaos of a very proficient actor's ability to just bounce around sort of distract you from how small that story actually is. Because it's literally just about how are these guys going to get out of here. That's all it is. Much like The Heist.
I kind of like that. He's done other films like this. He did this one film which he produced called Devil. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
It's great because it's got Chris Messina in it.
In a lift?
In an elevator. And the whole movie's in an elevator. It's really, really good. So, I'm quite fond of this structure, but I always like the horror or like the thriller or the suspense like to mean something.
Right.
Thematically, Split is about one thing, okay? It's about this guy who has suffered, okay? And that's probably why he's got these, these multiple personalities and stuff. And towards the end where he goes into this, he keeps teasing the beast, and finally when he does turn into that, and it's scary and it's great, but he doesn't kind of harm Casey is her name in the film, because he sees that she has suffered in her life. And he's like, because you have suffered, I don't need to hurt you. And that was an interesting theme. I didn't really know how to feel about it. Especially in the context of these other two films that are coming about. Because I know the first film is about, finding your place and your purpose. And David Dunn is this character who doesn't really know what he's doing. His marriage is kind of falling apart. And he finds out that he has an ability that not many people have. And he kind of explains his life through Glass's character. But in this film, it's like, you're right in the sense that it felt like he was trying to create this piece about suffering and all that jazz. And then kind of retroactively fits it into this universe, which I suppose you could do with any M. Night film because they're all set in Philadelphia. But like, I just didn't know how this suffering or whatever works within the context. And this is before Glass came out. And now Glass kind of tries to address that by saying that, it's all, kind of by saying that, your father was in the same train and I orchestrated this entire thing. So I didn't know how to feel about that in Glass. That, Split as a separate film independent of this franchise still works better than when it's put into it. I like the fact, even when the poster came out for Glass, right? I was like, oh shit, all three of them are in the same room, like that poster where all three of them are sitting together, which I find unnecessary in terms of like a story sense, but it's a cool shot. It's a great shot. I love that. And so I didn't find it very necessary. Anyway, having said that, let me come to Glass. Let's talk about that, right? So Glass is essentially like the conclusion of the story. They tease like all these elements of big superhero films. They tease a really big showdown, this gigantic building that has come up in Philadelphia. Said, this is where we're going to have this last final showdown. It never really happens there, which is kind of cool. I was wondering how they're going to address this because it's not really going, like when you have a powerful villain who's like a physical villain, like James McAvoy's character, and you have a powerful hero like David Dunn, and you have this mastermind kind of orchestrating all of this. I was just like, oh, cool. Are we going to get like an action film? Because it's weird. None of this, there's no precedent for it. This has all been very dramatic, very like, they all use their words far more than actions. And so I don't know how they're going to do it. I really like the context of them being caught fairly early on and put into the psychiatric ward. I thought that was cool. I just didn't like Sarah Paulson's like character arc. So Sarah Paulson is the therapist, right? Ellie Staple. And she says that, you think you can do these things. You can't actually do these things. And I thought that would have been really cool if we didn't actually have those two movies to prove the point earlier, like we've seen, so we know David Dunn can do these things because there's an entire movie about it.
Yeah.
James McAvoy can do these things because you've done it.
Yeah.
So I'm saying if Glass was this like new movie that just came out and you see these guys in action and then they get caught and then you'll be like, wait, are these guys actually
because
like that? That's cool.
She dissected like all of one specific moment between the two of them.
Exactly.
Or three of them.
But we've seen
like 100 of them, 100 instances where they do that.
Why would you?
Right.
So that kind of bothered me.
Sure.
I would have liked the fact that they've abducted in like if it was like a breakout film or whatever, which it kind of is, I suppose. But I would have liked that. As a fan of this film, as a fan of this franchise, man, it's like Alien, alright? You show me any Alien film, I'll enjoy the shit out of it.
Yeah.
So Glass fits in that very much so for me.
Yeah, biases have to be.
Yeah, I have a huge bias against, and I love everything that this guy does.
Fine.
So, I mean, I was just happy to see, I was really happy to see that David Dunn has this little, humble home security business and his son is running. It's kind of like an Oracle Batman kind of thing. I like that. I like James McAvoy, just generally he's cool. But yeah, I mean, I think the plot could have been a lot better, man. Like, it could have had so much more. Like, I kept thinking of things that they could have done, but just...
while watching it?
Yeah.
So, what I found very interesting to learn after the fact was that apparently he had intended to have James McAvoy's character in Unbreakable, but he said, let me shelf it. Because it was distracting
it
was distracting from
the main story.
From the main story, which is great because
it's a good call.
Unbreakable is a great movie.
Yeah, you did right.
Now the beef I have with that character, with McAvoy's character, is in Split. What worked so well about him was the fact that he was constantly on edge. You didn't know what was going to happen, who you were talking to, who to empathize with, who's the good voice in his head, who's the bad voice. So in that vein, The Therapist really grounded that film because her perspective was the closest thing to control that the audience had on getting a gauge of the situation, right? Casey silently figures it out, but we don't know what she's thinking, right?
Yeah.
So the fun part about that movie was just a matter of much like a game of Clue, it's like, how are we going to narrow this down and figure out which is the right way to deal with this guy?
Yeah.
And of course, we find out that the kryptonite is saying his name. I was like, all right, cool. So how are we going to get to that point where somebody can figure that out besides the therapist? Or how soon can the therapist say his name? And that's our MacGuffin after a certain point, right?
Yeah.
And so what was good about that, what he does so well, is that he's a suspense guy.
He is.
So by being a suspense guy, he was able to delay that for as long as possible. So the final 10% of that movie, when we finally see the Beast, we barely see the Beast, which makes the Beast right. But that made the Beast that much more impactful, right? Because when he's growling and doing his Beast things, he's off camera, he's in the shadows, and you're just seeing reaction shots of Casey, and so it's just now you're just empathizing with Casey. And then the fact that the Beast lets him go makes us think, oh, Casey actually this entire time was figuring him out much better than the therapist ever did, or sort of it gives her that much more power.
But did you feel so Unbreakable has a set of rules, okay? Like any good science fiction or whatever, this kind of movie has a set of fictional rules that the universe follows, right? Like David Dunn can do all these things. He's one end of the spectrum. Elijah Price is on the other. So they've kind of established these things. I felt Split was really good because, I mean, like I keep saying, it's good independently outside the realm of these things. But in Glass, there's a lot of things which have felt really arbitrary to me. His changing of his character, who gets to be in the light, which is basically in control. It just felt very I don't know, it just felt super arbitrary. There's no rule for what would happen unless you say his name,
of
course,
the simplest way to put it, I agree with you. The simplest way to put it is that in Glass, that worked, that gimmick, for lack of a better word, worked because it was all about him.
Yeah.
And the audience was allowed 90 minutes or however long with that character to figure out. We didn't see all 20 voices in his head, but we saw enough to be all right, this is too much to comprehend, but 90 minutes in, with 90 minutes in, we can comprehend. We know we like the kid, we like the 9-year-old, we like the...
Do we? Oh my God, son.
In that, we know he's harmless.
Yeah, he's harmless.
We like that guy because he's harmless. Cool. We don't like Patricia. We don't like Dennis.
Patricia.
All these things. So we figure out the different characters within the one actor.
Yeah.
But then in Glass, when you have Elijah, who's a mastermind, who anytime he blinks, you're like, oh, what did that blink mean?
Yeah.
Things like that. When we have David Dunn, we're waiting, we're we empathize probably the most with him because
because
we
he's
know
he's
the
a
most
regular
about
dude.
him.
Yeah.
He's a regular dude, right? So between him and his son, who are very much the most grounded characters that we have, whenever we see a scene with them, I think you can say we feel safest in that we're like, we are in control of what's happening.
Yeah.
But then when it came to McAvoy in Glass, it was just watching McAvoy doing his tricks.
Yeah.
It didn't feel exciting anymore because we know he's capable of it. We've seen an entire movie where we can see like this guy is a brilliant actor who can just jump. But then it was just a party trick. So I didn't care at all for the Beast in Glass.
Yeah.
And when you see so much of the Beast in Glass, it's like, okay, cool, hurry up and roar. And then let's get to the point. Yeah. Or not even the fight scenes. Like when the fight scenes happen. But the final act, all those fight scenes, they were fine. They were all right. Yeah. But it was literally just a matter of like the Beast grapples onto Dunn, and Dunn just sort of can be like, all right, let's just wrestle and shuffle about a little bit. Keep me away from water. Oh no, I'm in the water. All right, I'm out of the water. Cool. And Elijah looks on. Yeah. So
it felt like pretty random.
It was quite random. So I was losing it, about like the minute we got to the outside fight scene, I was like, all right, it all hinges on this. And then the minute Paulson comes in with like, hey, here's my secret story, I was like, all right, is this the final twist? I was excited at the notion because I was like, okay, here's where you land. This is the big finish.
Exactly.
This is where you're going to stick the landing and make it work. And that was when I realized, or I don't know if you could call it a realization, it's just based on a hunch. I felt that weight of Split worked remarkably well, and I now need to find a reason to glue all this together.
Got it.
I need to give the audience a reason for why I have these three amazing actors who are capable of so much exist. It felt to me like a kid being given brilliant actors and now write a script for them. It's like it doesn't work that way. You need to have the script and then earn the actors.
No, I agree completely. And I feel like Bruce Willis got like the short end of the stick in this film, like I was just like, you have really Bruce Willis, man. Just come on, make him say something cool or do some more stuff.
I felt like he let McAvoy shine in the light. No pun intended, because nice. He was hot. McAvoy was hot. It was on the heels of Split. People. I agree. Knew that character. They're like, let's give him that.
This film was almost green lit because. Split did well for him, for M. Night, after a really long time. He's like, it was his time in the limelight after a very long period of time. Yes. So I think he was like really excited about that and kind of said, oh, you know what? What if I finally make Glass and it would be cool, and everybody, because there was so much excitement, everybody appreciated Split. It happened. Yeah. But I mean, I felt the potential of him being able to do a lot more in this film. Let's talk about the final twist of this film, which is that in the end, Sarah Paulson's character, who's Ellie Staple, who's a psychiatrist, who's trying to convince them that they all don't really have any superhero abilities, finally, and spoilers, basically commands an army of like SWAT.
Of Irish people. That was the most indiest move ever. I need to find a reason to tell you. I need to find a way to tell you that these people that all these things are connected. How can I do it? I'm gonna take a Sharpie and draw something on two people's wrists, one of who you've never met, one of whose face I don't think we ever see.
Yeah, we don't.
And two, just like shoot a scene of them being ominous, saying words that mean nothing. Like just like arbitrarily, like saying villainous words.
I would even be okay with that if I understood what the goddamn purpose of that shit was.
I was so hyped. I was like, okay, cool. Make this work. And it didn't.
Okay, cool. So basically she commands this team of people to kind of execute all three people. James McAvoy, Kevin Wendell Crumb kind of, punches basically Elijah Price to death. Like he breaks like critical bones, I suppose, and, ruptures his lungs, whatever it is. And Elijah Price dies in his mother's arms. It's actually a very sweet moment. His mother is an amazing actress. Anyway, David Dunn is very randomly drowned in a small puddle. Yeah, very small. But since that's his kryptonite,
I guess
he's out. Sure. And I was just like, that's his exit?
Yeah.
Holy shit, come on, man. This guy is like unbreakable.
Yeah. He vaguely attempted a Whedon-esque, let me kill off the guys you love. Yeah. But just flopped.
And all of them, and Kevin Wendell Crumb gets shot. Okay, so all our main characters, boom, bite the dust, and all because Sarah Paulson's character has an agenda. Basically, she's part of some kind of cult, which and this is a recurring
An Irish
thought.
cult. That's all we know. They're Irish. That is all we know about them.
There's basically a recurring line in the film, or a recurring theory, saying that it's like, if you believe you're superpowered, how come it's only the three of you and why aren't there more? Okay, so like an X-Men or mutant kind of situation. But basically, and they keep thinking about that until the end, where you realize there's a secret cult that she's in charge of. Not much is said. Who kind of brings balance to the world by eliminating people like this. No real reason why.
Yeah, just
I'm not sure
complete
why.
baseless BS.
Very unnecessary.
100% BS. 100% BS.
So this is what okay, the rest of the movie I was really fine with. I'm fine with it.
I was.
I'm really fine with it.
Here's the thing, dude. I was on his side.
Yeah.
I'm
rooting
loved,
for him, man.
I loved Unbreakable.
Yeah.
I was very pleased with Split. And when I saw, okay, these are all linked, I was like, great. Show me what you got, man. And then 60-70% of the way, and I was like, okay, all right, I could, sure.
I was
all right,
there.
why not? All right, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You've earned it. You blew it.
Yeah, I was just
that
like,
ending, man.
I was just like, why? But why is this? Why are they? Okay, what is the agenda behind keeping them secret? Maybe I need to watch it again or like read up more about it. But it did not come across as like a very like. What was the agenda here? Like, why do they not want people to thrive? Like, is it because they're going to pose a threat to the rest of humanity? And this is their way of being. And she mentions that they've been doing this. They've been eliminating them for thousands of years.
Yeah.
I was like, is this like a backdoor pilot to another cult type film? Is this connected to the village? I have no idea. I don't know what it was. But it felt very... Somebody enlighten me, please. Whoever's listening. Somebody, if you can give me a better explanation than the fact that they were jealous or they don't want people.
Probably, right?
Something like that. I don't know. Tell me, because I don't know. I thought that was a weak ending. And maybe the only... out from that, the only kind of story link we get back to our principal characters is that the remaining, I'd say the counterparts of theirs, which is like Elijah's mother,
Casey.
Casey's, who she's kind of like the abductee of Kevin, and David's son, Joseph. They bind together to reveal to the world all the footage that Elijah Price has secretly...
So they're going to set up the Xavier Academy, basically.
Yeah, something
they're
like
going
that.
to be like, we're the normies here, we're the muggles, but we will set up the school for all you wizards.
And I was just like,
right.
already that's a better movie. as a thought.
Okay.
But so they do this, and at the end they are waiting for... They've uploaded this video, like these videos publicly. I have many thoughts on that also, which is that, man, you can make anything look...
Yeah, okay, can we...
how is that supposed to prove?
Okay, jumping off of that, before we wrap, we have to obviously talk about the namesake of the movie, Elijah.
Yeah.
Right? So, to the end of, yes, you're right, there are so many ways that you could have faked those videos. It's 2019, like, come on. Like,
I know,
right?
You gotta be better than that.
Two big things. The namesake of this movie, it's called Glass, because it's about him and his mastermind plan all along through these three movies, and the fact that he's the reason that the parents, that David and the dad...
he's orchestrated this entire story.
Cool, fine. So if he really is the mastermind and everything is built around him and what he does, the thing about Jackson is that he is the king of charisma. Half the movie doesn't say anything, and and he does it really well. He just blinks and like winks and does whatever, and it's like, ooh, what's he thinking? And it's great.
He's cool. He's great.
And then the heist happens. He pulls it off really nicely. Everything's good. But then, the minute we're outside and he basically starts giving you the DVD commentary version of any superhero movie, where it's just like, aha, you see here where Loki and Iron Man are facing off, running in circles around each other? This is called the confrontation. Like, all of that.
It's this very meta
if this was the year 2000... Great. By all means.
Of course.
You do know that the MCU's 22 movies in. You do know these things. You do know that your audience is very well acquainted with this.
Yeah, with the terminology and the jargon, at least the structures of these types of films.
It was funny and cute and endearing the first two times. Yeah. But then when he goes friggin' north of a dozen times of explaining to whoever the hell is listening that, see, mother, this is called a showdown. It's like, well,
your mother bought you these comics, fool.
It's like, why? We don't need this. This is completely like that. He was literally commentating on the fight.
Yeah.
There's a fight scene happening. He's orchestrated it. He's apparently been planning this for years. And then he decides to gloat to his mom about what the scenes are called. Like it didn't have any purpose.
My only defense of it,
your mastermind looked like an idiot.
Well, my only defense is that in this world, there is no superhero movie. There are no superhero movies.
But I'm sorry. You can't do that. You can't expect that to land.
I know, yeah, you can't expect that to land.
You have to be aware of what your audience knows.
I really wished that when I was thinking about, I didn't really think about what the plot could be. But when I heard Glass was going to happen, I was just like, oh, cool. Yeah. We're going to get a fight between these two guys and something that Elijah's going to do. I don't know. But I really like that. But yeah, if I have to kind of trace the thought from the first film, which is Unbreakable, is about Elijah trying to find his equal in many ways. Like he's trying to find the other end of the spectrum, and he does. And that ending is sublime. It's great.
When in Unbreakable, when
he says like, it's time to shake my hand.
Brilliant. In Unbreakable, so when he explains things the way he does in Glass, it works beautifully.
Yeah, because it was
20 years ago, and because he does it very, very delicately, he picks his moments beautifully. He's explaining it to a guy who is not a comic book person, who doesn't realize he is a superhero, and therefore needs to be told.
Yeah.
However, forget the fact that it's 2019 for a second. He is talking about two superheroes who are fighting out in the open. Yeah. And he has spent his whole life like researching comic books, making a gallery about them, blah blah. Like it'd be the equivalent, Tejas, if like you and I, 80 years from now, or when we're 80 years old, we're like,
episode 3,000,001.
No, like this is what these mics are what you use to record your voice with. Like, and so what? Why are you explaining this? Like, this is what the letter A looks like.
You've not seen Shazam yet, right?
I've not yet.
Okay, so it's weirdly not obviously not at all the same story, but like there's a lot of like meta-ness in that film, as you may imagine from the trailers or whatever, where they are like kind of reacting to things that are very familiar about the genre. So in a sense, Shazam and suffers on the same thing, by the way, where they're both films that are like just like waxing poetic on the genre, which we're already, like you said, like we're already so well acquainted with, that it becomes kind of it becomes annoying at some point. It becomes like really like like you said, like why are you doing this? We get it, Like everybody knows. I mean, why Deadpool works is because it was like the first one to kind of out and out say, hey, is this like, this movie's too dark? What is this, a DC movie? All that stuff. Yeah, man, it's weird. It's strange. I wish. I don't know how they would have concluded this series, or maybe they could have done it with better dialogue or writing or something like that. But I think it could have gone a number of different ways, man. Maybe if we were introduced to the Skull Society from the beginning of the film and it seeded in well, then maybe it would have been like the three of them versus. It would have been cool. Like I don't know. There was potential there, but I don't know. Having said that, I would weirdly still like it. I still like it. I still like watching all these guys.
I only enjoyed it because I was watching it just after watching the previous two. And I was very much invested in that world. If I saw it in isolation, I'd be like, what? Why?
Yeah, why? And it's weird. Most people will see it in isolation. Obviously, this is a fan. I still think it's a fan film, and a lot of people. I don't know how this was received. I think there was a lot of disappointment from the same guys who like the film. I think for the exact same reasons, man. So, I'm gonna give M. Night a pass on this one because he made Unbreakable. And I love that.
I liked all the light-handedness that made Unbreakable work.
Let's talk about the things we liked about.
Was replaced with heavy-handedness.
I agree.
And that was just.
So let's not end like this. I don't want to conclude the franchise like this. What did you like about the film?
I like the premise of why all three of them were put together. I like the fact that it, for a change, when you have a story for the first time, when you see the revelation to the world that people like this exist, the classic mutant story, it wasn't at the scale that it usually gets blown out into, where like it's all over the news and everybody's blah blah blah. Even though that's where it gets to at the end for the opposite reason. Which is what Manoj is great at doing, keeping things small and humble.
I like that.
So I like that I do like this stayed true to his simplicity of just Mr. A, Mr. B in a small little sandbox, and what can I do with within
No, I
those
agree.
confines.
I and like you said, he's like indie filmmaker almost. Is like those are his roots. So I like that it still stays very humble like that. I do like, man. I think he's got a really good eye for the look, of his films and stuff. I like that. I mean, and this happened in Unbreakable as well. And he's kind of like even forwarded that to this thing, which is like every character has like a distinct color, things like that. He's got, obviously Sam Jackson is like the purple dude, his guy's got yellow, and David Dunn's is green, and like even at the end all three of their counterpart characters are wearing the same color scheme. I like those few touches. I like the way that it's filmed and it's shot. I like I'm just like a fan of his eye for detail in that regard. Yeah, man, I'm okay with it. I'm fine. Yeah, it's just we got Unbreakable and Split, and I think that was fine. And we just got this movie it's almost like a bonus. In fact, there's this. I'm glad, I liked the one thing which they did, like two things that they did. One is that they used a deleted scene from the first film in this.
That's what I was wondering. I
like that.
I was like, was that in the movie?
I know, but it was
But
smartly used.
It was fine.
If ever you get a chance to do something like that, it's like almost like Boyhood, like being able to kind of shoot a film across many years. But I mean, he had obviously some unused footage from that, which he put in this, and it worked. Like for me, I was like, oh, cool, we get to see young Bruce Willis. And that kid, man, I love that kid. I love that he's like a grown-up dude, and we get to see him. Killed off Robin Wright's character. That sucked.
Yeah.
Because I would have loved to see her in that, but that was nice. That was a good touch. Yeah, man, digging it. And the second time was the train shot, like how they morphed, they composited the two.
That was fun.
Just
always
love that kind of shit. I'm a big fan of it. In fact, when we go watch Avengers, and if they do something like that, I'm gonna cry. I swear,
of course they're gonna
cry.
Yeah,
they're gonna do it well. I feel like that's the pinnacle of planning, man.
They're gonna destroy the game.
Yeah. All right, so those are our thoughts on Glass. Let us know what you thought. Tell us. I feel like I love movies. I don't know if you saw Us. You didn't see Us.
No, not yet.
So similarly, like that, that film, or like other movies which I've mentioned before, like Hereditary, I love that a lot of the movie is not in the movie. Like the story of the movie is around the movie, or at least the conversation about the movie, right? We get to see it from one person's perspective, but like there's a lot of like what we understand. Like it requires like multiple watchings. So if you can tell us, have we missed anything in this film? Like, I really want to know, man. Like, I want to know more about this. I'm looking for reasons to defend this film as well, because I'm just a fan. Let us know. Contact geekfruit@gmail.com and find us on all social media at geekfruithq. We'll read out your emails with
no matter how long or short,
varying degrees of excitement. Let us know what you think about Chris Nolan being in Bombay. All right. See you later. You nuts.
Filter coffee is a fascinating beverage. You need to pick the right beans, blend them in the right proportion, roast them to perfection, and slow brew at the right temperature to get the perfect cup. Which is exactly like great conversations as well. You need to track down the most interesting minds, get them into their zone, and settle down for an unhurried, unscripted chat. And coffee for me is always, always, always best enjoyed with friends. I'm Karthik Nagarajan, and do share my table as I meet some of the most interesting people I know and sit them down for a strong cup of coffee and an even stronger conversation. Join me every Wednesday for a freshly brewed episode. This is not frappe. This is the Filter Coffee Podcast.
Hey Meghnad, do you know how to citizen?
Hey Shreyas, do you know how to citizen?
Hey Meghnad, do you know how to citizen?
Hey Shreyas, let's just do a podcast about it.
Let's do a podcast about it. A podcast is called How to Citizen. In every episode, we get a new guest and discuss one chapter from the 8th grade civics textbook. Think about it as three friends revising before a test. And we go back to school. There's nostalgia, there's trauma, there are lunch breaks, there are favorite teachers, there are horrible teachers, there's everything.
So every Tuesday we bring in a guest on the podcast and we ask them a very simple question. Do you know how to citizen?
Meghnad, I think the question is, do you know how to citizen?
But Shreyas, I'm asking you this question. Do you know